Hello there, Riderflex Nation. Steve Urban here with more career advice and job interviewing tips for you. And as a quick reminder, if you enjoy our podcast, please remember to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes. And on today's podcast, we have Chad Freehoff, the co-founder and CEO of ReadyList Sports, an interactive web-based football playbook that leverages multiple learning styles and integrated testing. Chad, thanks for being on the show. Let's start by having you tell the listeners a little about yourself.
Oh, my pleasure. I grew up in Brush, Colorado, and on the Eastern Plains, Colorado, in a small town on a farm, and I found my way to the Colorado School of Mines, where I majored in civil engineering, and I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity to play football and basketball at the School of Mines.
Oh, a double sport. I didn't know that. Okay.
4 years of football and 3 years of basketball. So I was super good and we had in the academics for sure.
That's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, and after Mines, I signed a free agent contract with the Denver Broncos shortly after the 2005 NFL draft. Yeah, I was there 5 months, and that's kind of where the idea of ReadyList Sports was planted. Even though my study skills that I developed at the School of Mines to get through school, I really struggled with learning the playbook once I got to the Broncos. So Coach Kubiak and Coach Shanahan's offense is very verb intensive, and I was a photographic memory guy. So if I can see something, I'll remember it. But the audio piece of the game, when they would tell me a play and I would take it back to the huddle, I really struggled with that piece of the game. So I figured if I was struggling, there was a lot of other players in the NFL in similar or worse circumstances. So I was released from the Broncos after training camp, and I found my way on 9 professional teams in 7 years. So unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your outlook at life, I got a lot of practice at learning playbooks. And once I retired, went back to the School of Mines and I coached for 2 years. So I got that side of it. And I decided if I was going to put all this together and pursue the product, it was now or never. So
I see. And so you had the original idea. So I guess it was the playbooks were just like static pages, right? Like in my head, when I think of a playbook, I think of a printed paper copies of playbooks. I don't know if it's still like that, but so when you got there, that's how it was. And you thought, wow, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be some sort of interactive web-based tool. And is that kind of how it went? And there was nothing else on the market like that?
Absolutely. Just like you mentioned, it's just those static drawings that you just flip page after page, and we're talking upwards of 1,000 plays you're trying to memorize. So I would draw. The way I study best would be draw out all those plays, and you double checking back in the playbook, and it just wasn't very efficient. So I read a stat somewhere that if you can allow people to interact with the content, they'll retain 3.5 times more than just staring at those static images. So that's kind of what our goal was set out to provide different learning styles, whether you're auditorial, visual, tactile, through film, and however you study best, find that niche, and then going back to that integrated testing of interacting with the players and the content and the routes and the formations.
I see. I looked at the website, of course, and studied that. It looks like a great tool. I mean, what a difference for even a high school quarterback to be able to have this interactive, tool where the play is moving, right? The players are actually moving through on the screen, and you're in this interactive environment. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it's just watching it, some of the videos and looking at the website, it's got to be 100 times better than, what they're used to. Are you up against stiff competition there? Was there, or were you the first ones to introduce this to the NFL? And go ahead.
Yeah, we're the first one to market with this integrated testing, and so we're trying to stay ahead of the curve. And it's difficult with technology and software. There's always the product never stops. There's always ways to improve it. And just to hit on a little bit of you had mentioned the NFL. We designed our new version for even youth football. Maybe a mom or dad that's never played football before that gets volunteered into coaching, they can get on our app and and leverage pre-drawn plays that we've created into a library, and they can push them out to the kids, and even 9-year-old flag football. There's an app, so we're trying to capture the entire market from the youth all the way to the NFL.
I can only imagine. I had two boys that played football, and my youngest son was a high school quarterback. I can only imagine if he had this tool. And like you said, in youth, I mean, can you imagine you're handing a 14-year-old like a printed copy of a playbook? That's the last thing they want to do is sit down and read that. But if you hand them a tablet that's like a game, like the games they're using to play, and it's interactive, oh my gosh, all of a sudden they're engaged, probably 10 times more engaged, I would think, and helps them learn much faster. What a great idea. So let's talk a little bit about the company a little more then. So it really, this product, if you will, it's you sign up, or like you go, it's a web-based deal. So you sign up and then you log in, and then you kind of walk us through how that works and so forth. Like if I was a coach of a little league team, how would I go about that?
Yeah, you just go to our website, readylistsports.com, and then you can click on there's an online store, and you put in how many player accounts that you want tied to your coach account, and then you can swipe your credit card right there and have immediate access to your account. So that's the simplest way. You can also reach out to us, and we can walk you through and set up an account for you as well.
And if I had a playbook as a coach, like this printed playbook we talked about, the old school, how do I get those plays to you, and then how does it get, what do you do? Like log it in? You have developers that put that into your system, or how does that work?
Yes, we went back to the drawing board from our prototype, and we just made it a million times easier for coaches to install their own plays. So going back to leverage those templates and the formation templates and route templates and plays that we've already installed, people can go in and leverage those templates and build their plays. In any other modality, it'll take you 10 to 15 minutes to draw a play. If you're familiar with the software, you can get in and knock out a play in under a minute. So not only we're getting the learning and testing, integrated testing, you're also saving time for the coaches to go in and draw your plays.
I see. Okay, got it. Is most of your business, is it youth, or is it high school, or is it college, NFL, or is it a mixed bag so far?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag so far, it's been it's a little challenging because there are obviously different levels of the app and different price points, but so far we've kind of hit a little bit on each market.
I see. Okay. All right. And so just a couple more questions on the product itself. So at this point, if I'm in high school, and let's say I'm a high school coach, and you're approaching me with the product, and all my players already have this playbook and so forth, it's as easy as me having one of the assistant coaches take my playbook, log into your system, quickly put in all the plays, and then boom, now all my players are logging in and they have this interactive tool. I mean, it's that fast. So it's not this 2-month onboarding process to get my players started.
No, all the way our app was designed, all the coaches need to do is go in and draw the plays, draw their playbook, and then our app takes all that information and generates all those randomized tests for you. So you're not spending time generating your playbook and then having to go generate all these tests. It's all done in one step and on the back end of it.
Love it. Love it. Where'd you get this entrepreneurial bug? Did this come from one of your parents? Did you always think I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Where'd that come from?
I think it is from my dad, being a farmer. I mean, they're more or less entrepreneurs and being their own boss. And I think that was kind of instilled for me at a young age of, if I was going to work my tail off, I want to reap the rewards, and not necessarily, I guess a bad way to look at it is make money for
right.
The boss man. So I think if I want to put in the work, I want to reap rewards, and on the back end, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, then I'm not going to reap those awards. So
that's great. I appreciate you saying that. People ask me, they say, well, why'd you start RiderFlex? And sometimes they'll say, well, I spent most of my life making other people rich, so I'd like to actually make money for myself for a change. What's been the most challenging parts of starting the business? Can you talk a little bit about that? What have been the major hurdles so far?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't think about is as being an entrepreneur and being, one or two person business is you have to be an expert in everything about your business, whether it's marketing, accounting, sales, product development, product design, the bug fixes, taxes, patents, and that's very hard to do.
Right.
So that's been the most challenging, and a lot of it's just doing a lot of your own research and doing your own homework, and then trying to surround yourself with people that can lend a helping hand here and there, and some guidance and some direction.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Yeah, unless you're funded, unless somebody writes you a $2 million check to hire a bunch of people, at first it's just you and maybe a couple of co-founders. So you're right. Everybody's wearing all these hats. You're one day you're the accounting manager, and the next day you're the sales guy.
Yeah, even hour to hour of different meetings throughout the day of wearing those different hats. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. And so what's been the most rewarding piece so far? What's been or maybe not the most rewarding, what's been your biggest win so far? The most exciting thing that's happened? Was it the very first contract you got signed? Or share a couple of those with us, so the listeners can hear the exciting parts of starting a business.
Absolutely. I think the first exciting part is just seeing your idea come to fruition. So you have the idea, but actually going out and producing that product and having a tangible product, that is definitely, I think number two is obviously our first sale at the high school level. And then the biggest win so far for us was the Miami Dolphins. So that validation of having an NFL team purchase your product and see that much in your product that they want to spend money, and they see the value in that. So I'm
visualizing you and your partners walking out of the Miami Dolphins office to the parking lot in your car, trying not to act too excited as you're walking to your car, and then getting in the car and giving each other high fives and then going to dinner. Is that how it went?
Pretty close. It's you definitely through being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of highs and lows. So you definitely got to appreciate the small wins, and that was a big win. So it's super exciting.
Would you, is there anything in particular you would have maybe done different, or some advice you would give somebody wanting to leave the corporate world and be an entrepreneur and start their own thing? Maybe a key piece of advice or something you would have done different, so that those that are thinking about doing it can hear your thoughts on that.
I think the biggest advice that I would have given myself is control what you can control. And I know people hear that a lot, but being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of things that, whether it's the time in the day or handling developers or fundraising through investments, is just control what you control and keep your head down and keep your blinders on and try to accomplish more tomorrow than you did today. So
it's a lot harder than people think, isn't it?
Absolutely. Kind of knowing now what I have learned the last 4 or 5 years, it makes you think if I would have decided to do it all over again, right? It's definitely a challenge that has its rewards too.
Some of these millennials, they watch, they see the Facebook movie or something, and they think, oh wow, it can all happen in like 2 hours, and I can be rich. Yeah, no, it doesn't quite work like that.
It's definitely taking a lot longer than we had planned, for sure.
Yeah, it usually does. This is also your first time being a CEO, right? So you got thrown into being an entrepreneur, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're the CEO. You had, there was no training checklist, no mentoring to be a CEO. So all of a sudden, you're running that too. So you're dealing with advisors, you're dealing with investors, you're dealing with partners. What's been the most challenging part so far about being that first time C-level executive?
I think just being afraid to make those mistakes. And, making the mistakes is where you're going to learn more than if you just fell into something happening good for you, right? So I compare a lot of this to athletics, because that's my background of being a quarterback. I try to translate being a quarterback and managing the personalities on a team and in the locker room, and managing those different personalities in corporate, whether it's, the investors or dealing with more the tech side of it in the software development. Yeah, just the challenge of handling those personalities was it was interesting at times.
I bet. What's been harder, trying to be an NFL quarterback or starting your own business?
Oh shoot. I think being an entrepreneur, seriously, it's sometimes hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but
Yeah, I was just going to say that right there should tell the listeners exactly how hard it is to start your own business and be an entrepreneur, because I think most listeners can somewhat understand what it must be like to be a professional athlete, like an NFL. Like, we're talking about a very tiny percentage of the people walking around on planet Earth can actually play NFL football. And for you to say, hey, it's just as hard or maybe harder to be an entrepreneur and start a business. There you go, folks. If you think starting a business is easy, it's not. It's a lot of hard work, a lot of pain, a lot of sweat, and so forth. You got to be truly determined, right? I mean, you got to get up every day. You wake up one day and you got 5 more hurdles in front of you, and you got to figure out how to jump over them. I totally agree. So as your business grows, you're going to start hiring people eventually. So all of a sudden now you're going to be the talent scout in that area, and you're going to do a lot more interviews and be looking for great talent. What are some things that you're going to look for? Like, what would you ideally want to see in a candidate that wants to be part of ReadyList?
Yes, I think the biggest thing that we've hit on numerous times here is, wearing all those different hats, and you're so busy, you don't have time, or you don't want to go basically babysit someone. You want somebody self-driven. If you don't have something for them to do, that they can find their own things to do, whether it needs to get done now, or they see the vision that it's something that needs to get done a month from now. So just not being able to sit and look over their shoulder and making sure they're doing what they're supposed to, but being self-driven, I think, is the biggest thing.
And when you're a startup, there's not a ton of payroll to go around. So probably you need people that are willing to sacrifice a little bit, right? I'm guessing, they might want to, if you're going to be part of a startup, you're probably going to have to come in at a lower salary than maybe you could make at a Fortune 500 company. You're going to have to be willing to wear multiple hats. You're going to have to be willing to work 80 hours a week. I'm guessing all that applies in your situation.
No, you're spot on. Hopefully they see the vision, and the being able to get on the ground floor or something and help build something, I think is more rewarding than what people are currently doing. So definitely take everything that you said. It's hard to sell them on the vision, and hopefully it'll all work out in the end. And
I'm also just guessing. I'm also just guessing. Maybe tell me if I got this wrong, but I'm just guessing there are some people that have pinged you, and they're like, oh, I want to be, part of ReadyList Sports, and I want to be part of it, and I want to help. And then you come to find out, well, they really just think they're going to get to hang around NFL football players and hang around stars, and they just want to do that. They don't really want to work. Have you had some of that happen?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely, from investors all the way to, people wanting to help out. They see the glitz and glamour, or they think a startup that they're going to come in and make, a ton of money off the bat. So you kind of, it's hard to set those expectations up front for sure.
I met you probably, I guess, maybe 2 years ago when you were earlier in the life cycle of the business, and I remember thinking to myself, Chad is determined, right? He's determined, and you were just pushing through all those hurdles that happen when you first start a business. I'm super proud of the fact that I'm talking to you, this far down the road, and you guys are making advances and gaining customers. I can also hear the excitement in your voice as well. So super happy for you that it's coming along. If you looked back now, I know you're not an old guy like me. You're still fairly young, but if you looked back now, just talking about your life in general and kind of where you're at in life, and coming from a small town in Colorado, and by the way, going to the School of Mines and getting an engineering degree, which is like a major hurdle in itself, right? But kind of looking back on everything you've done so far, if you gave some advice to that young man just graduating the School of Mines, let's call it 21 years old, is there anything you would have done differently? Anything you'd tell that guy?
Oh, there's a ton of stuff for sure. But I think one of the big things is any part of life, it's about relationships, and it's a lot more about who you know than what you know, obviously. So there's a couple of times, specifically right out of college, signing with the Broncos, where you're in a position where you could definitely leverage a lot of people wanting to get to know you and wanting to develop relationships with you. And I kind of had my blinders on, and all I want to do is focus on making the team, showing up to practice every day, getting my focus on my diet and the strength and conditioning and all that good stuff, that I didn't take advantage of meeting people. And, people want to gravitate towards professional athletes, obviously. And I think that was one of my biggest regrets with my experience with the Broncos was that piece.
I appreciate you saying that. I tell people all the time, hey, if you're smart and you work really hard, if you have those two things, you are going to go, you're going to do well, but you could do so much better if you're smart, you work hard, and you have the networking and the relationships, right? It is so often about who you know. I really teach my sons about that all the time. I just tell them, look, relationships and networking, that is the secret sauce, because if you combine that with halfway decent smarts and great work ethic, then you have it all. So I'm glad you mentioned that. By the way, you did do a pretty good job of the relationships. You got Jake Plummer, the former NFL quarterback, to be a co-founder of the business. You got Mike Shanahan as a board advisor. So, kudos to yourself there. You did obviously develop some relationships because you got some power people on the team. So congrats with that. Well, last question. I like to ask this one. A mentor asked me this question a while back, and he's a great mentor of mine, and I thought it was a great question. He said, Steve, what's your core purpose in life? And, pretty deep question. I tried to give like a cheesy answer. I think I woke up and said, I want to make the world a better place or something. And he's like, yeah, that's everybody's standard answer. But beyond that, what's your real core purpose in life when you wake up every day? And I had to think long and hard about it before I could come up with a good answer. I wanted to ask you the same question. What's Chad's core purpose right now in life?
Like I'm a goal setter. So anything that I do in life, whether it's through academics or sports or now in business, is achieving goals. So I find that's pretty awesome. I rarely achieve the goals that I set, which is crazy, but I think that's a pretty good focus in my life. And then kind of on the financial side I'm not really a material collector. I don't like material things, but if I can, through the business, set up future generations of my family financially, I think that's would be pretty sweet.
Very good. Very good. Right back to family. Right back to that family in Brush. By the way, are they still there?
They are. My folks are both there.
That's great. Well, congratulations, my friend, on everything you've done so far. I mean, from a high school star athlete to the School of Mines, to play football and basketball there and get a degree from there and then go on to play in the NFL and then start your own business. Hey, you're doing pretty good, my friend. So congrats on everything you've knocked out so far. I wish you guys the best at Ready List Sports. It looks like an awesome product. I really wish I could have given that to my own son when he played, but I know a lot of other people will take advantage of it. So thank you, sir, for being on the show. I really appreciate your time and wish you the best of luck as things move along.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
We truly hope you find our material helpful and entertaining. And while our podcast can be heard across most platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, and SoundCloud, you can become a supporter of this podcast by visiting our show on the platform Anchor FM. That's anchor.fm/Riderflex. You can also send us your questions or suggested topics for future episodes to the email address podcast@riderflex.com or drop us a voicemail at 888-964-5876, extension 710. Visit riderflex.com to learn more about us. Thanks so much for listening, folks, and have a great day.